Here we go. Well, welcome everybody. It's great to have the first virtual meeting for Regen Tulum. This is really meant to more or less be a report back on what we learned on the first meeting, a little bit of an update, and to create a recording that can be shared by people to let them know what we're working on. I'm gonna just jump into this. We're gonna start out with a brief welcome, which is happening right now, and then go into a short section about why Regen Tulum. We'll have both myself and Mitch Cuervo speak to that. And then we're going to have a meeting recap from Veronica Anderson of Home Dash. Following that, a slide presentation that is a slight update from what we saw the other day. We're gonna have a couple partners talk about their projects, Hope Tulum and Regen B. So that's Andres and Francis. Then we'll have a short question and answer section and go into next steps. So thank you all for being here. So I'm David Benjamin, and I'm a longtime resident of the Bay Area, actually a Bay Area native. I just came to Tulum for the second time in May, and I decided to stay. It was a one-way ticket. What's interesting is I came to Tulum 25 years ago and went to the ruins. Pretty much that was the main thing about Tulum at that moment, was the ruins. And I had this magical experience. It was the first place ever that I felt the energy of a land. And now I'm back. And I've done so much work since then, regeneration projects in the Bay Area, focused on resilience and sustainability, local clean energy, capturing water from the rain, community gardens. That was a whole segment of my work. And I also worked with an organization called Post Carbon Institute, helped build that up, which was how do we live in a world that doesn't have as much oil? Really excited to bring some of those perspectives to Tulum at this critical point, because Tulum has changed so much since I was here 25 years ago. It's grown from 3,000 people to over 37,000 people, and now there are 2 million plus visitors per year. And it's really taxing the infrastructure in many different ways that show up in landfills in the jungle and sargasso and in massive amounts. So I'm excited to be part of this, an active participant in the regenaissance of Tulum. And I'd like to have Mitch Cuervo come and speak as well.
Hi, how are you? Sorry if I sound a little bit, I'm a little bit under the weather, but I just wanted to, well, thank you everyone for being here. My story, how did I start it, and why do I think we need Regen Tulum? I moved to Tulum 12 years ago, and to Quintana Roo almost 21 years ago. And when I moved to Tulum, well, I could see Playa and Cancun changing. When I moved to Tulum, Tulum was paradise. Tulum was beautiful, and I was like riding my bicycle every day to the beach to take my Kundalini classes. And at the end of the Kundalini yoga, we had this meditation with gong music, and I will get off my meditation, open my eyes, and be surrounded by blue crabs. They came attracted by the gong sound, and they just like look at me while I was like laying there. And I developed this relationship with the crabs. So after that, I started working on a beach restaurant all the way by Beach Tulum. And it was just like an open restaurant, and we have all these crabs coming during there's like the crab season during the summer. They go from the beach to the mangrove. So we will have all of them crossing the road. We will be helping them, stopping cars. There was not much traffic, so we will be able to stop cars and let the crabs go walk by. And we did this for a couple of years, and then traffic came, and then taxis, and then everyone, and then there started to be some parties, and you could see hundreds and hundreds of crabs all on the road, all run over. And every year you will see like crab season, there was, instead of thousands, there's hundreds, instead of hundreds, there's a few, and at some point there were no more crabs. And that's what I realized, like, oh my God, we killed them. Like, we did this. We ended up the crab population on our own. And we need to stop this, because if we can end the crabs, we can end the beaches, we can have the mangroves, we can end all the beauty that makes Tulum. So then at that point I started meeting with other people, meeting with Heather from No Mas Plastic, and we started an organization that ended up being Red Tulum Sostenible, with Olmo, with all these other people that are participating there, Carla Acevedo, Carlos Mead, etc. And I was part of Red Tulum Sostenible for around 3 years. And then, then we're here, and then I met David, who has all these new ideas and technologies, and I was like, okay, let's go back and start fighting again to Regen Tulum, to support. And well, my idea, it was because I did so and met all these people that are doing something for Tulum, that they don't have anywhere to communicate their projects, that they are like disconnected from the people that actually want to help. And there's also a lot of people coming right now for like escaping the COVID, and that are very valuable, that really want to go something about helping Tulum. So I think that the idea that we have is like to pull everyone together, to bring the people that are trying to help Tulum with the people who have the resources or the media or the intention, or just like to participate, to help, to give money, to volunteer. And that's how we created Regen Tulum. So thank you for being here.
Thanks, Mish. Thank you. Yeah, that's really powerful story about the crabs. We don't want to have any more species go that route. We don't want to have the beaches go that route. We don't want to have the mangroves go that route. So yes, let's do something together. Next up, we're going to have Veronica Anderson speaking about the last meeting. She actually facilitated that meeting, and we're going to have a short recap. So Veronica, why don't you take it?
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much, David and Mish, for inviting me to support Regen Tulum. Can you give me a thumbs up if you're hearing me okay? Awesome. So good to see you guys today. And to be here sharing with you a little bit about my work. So I'm a visionary architect. I'm originally from the United States. I moved to Tulum from Costa Rica. And when I was in Costa Rica, I learned a lot about the Regenaissance. I became really inspired by all of the momentum around permaculture and intentional communities and sustainable development. And when I came to Tulum, I noticed that there wasn't a lot of connection, although so much love, so many people wanting to make the community a better place here. So I spoke with David and Mish, learned about their project, and I decided to offer my support to bring the community together around a map. And this is something that I've studied for the last decade, about the way mapping can help us organize our communities to become more resilient, to share information, to coordinate resources, and to help manage our energy in a sustainable, regenerative, resilient way. So at the meeting that we had last week, that was 6 days ago, I'm still so juiced up by all of the beautiful energy from our community. I shared a little bit about something called Home Dash. And Home Dash is this project that I've been working on for almost 5 years, but it's launching in a real space and time now. And Home Dash is a dashboard for seeing the heartbeat of Mother Earth. So HOME is the heartbeat of Mother Earth. And this is a dashboard that you could open up on your phone or your computer and see the heartbeat of Mother Earth. It's like Google Maps, where you can see all of your favorite projects on a map, and it reflects back in real time how we're doing as far as our progress towards regeneration. It's also a tool that can support the United Nations in the implementation of the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals and any other stakeholders that are working to make the world a better place. So that's what you see on the screen here is the intersection of local expertise and science coming together with information technology. So that's just the map. That's the technology that makes all of our decentralized dreams possible. And then the designers and the planners. And that's where I come in at this stage, holding the intersection of all of these different areas of interest. So thanks for sharing that, David. And as we discussed, I'll give an overview of what we did at our meeting last week. David, can you let me know how long I have though? How many minutes?
How about another 4 minutes?
Great, happy to do it. So I'll spend a minute each on the 4 areas of design and analysis that we discussed for Tulum. We did a strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats analysis. So this was a really simple process, and there were 21 of us in total, and we're all community leaders with expertise in design, journalism, theater, filmmaking, music, development, finance, sustainable building, land ownership, healing, web development, and more. So there was so much energy in the room. And in a circle, we offered responses to this popcorn style. So the first question was, what are the assets, strengths, and potentials that Tulum has? And some of the answers we got were people, magic, people who love Tulum, the Mayan culture, which is being preserved for future generations. There are strength in numbers of people who can design together here. There's a lot of water, a very rich biosphere, lots of wildlife, the coral reefs, the cenotes, lots of open minds and open hearts. There's a culture of spirituality here. There are bees and the ocean and medicinal plants and herbs. So these are just some of the potentials and strengths that Tulum has. And we're focusing on an asset-driven approach. So we know there are a lot of problems in Tulum, but we really want to uplift and focus on what are the beautiful positive aspects of Tulum. At the same time, we looked at the weaknesses. Some of the weaknesses for Tulum are security, infrastructure, greed, there's overdevelopment, there's corruption, education isn't as advanced as it could be or widespread, there's crime, healthcare struggles, bitterness in the community, a lack of coordination, fragile ecosystem, drugs, short-term thinking, a focus on aesthetics, exclusion, classism, fragmentation, ego. So these are some of the weaknesses that we're designing around as we think about regenerating Tulum as a whole. There are a lot of opportunities. That was the next prompt that I gave to the group. And the opportunity is to do it right this time, to come together in strength and community and capitalize on the global momentum that's taking place right now towards the Regenaissance. Tulum is just a very prime example, and it can become a blueprint and example of the regeneration movement. And this is in alignment with ancient prophecies. And we have the opportunity to uplift consciousness as a whole and to really teach a scalable example of how technology can help us to reunite with nature and ultimately save the world. So these are some of our notes from the meeting. The final category that we looked at for Tulum was, what are the threats? So a design for regenerative Tulum would address disconnection, control, fear, ego, people being protective of their information, guarded, a superiority complex, people putting money before the planet, corruption, natural disasters, indifference, selfishness, isolation, impatience, and ecosystem collapse, jaguar extinction, financial collapse, system collapse. So these are some of the things that we hope to address more deeply at our next meeting, which will talk about the path that we're heading on. But I hope if you weren't able to be at the meeting, this gives you a sense of where we're at, how we're thinking of generation. And if you were there, I hope you're feeling in your heart the energy that's carrying forward from the work that we did together. So thanks for listening, and I pass my word now.
Thank you, Veronica. That was really helpful to get that recap. And I really love the piece about the opportunities and how you pulled that together in your telling of it. So thank you.
Beautiful.
I see a great potential for us to do great things together. And that's why I'm here at this moment with you.
Thank you. Me too, David.
Who are we? We've mentioned a little bit about that. I will just say, beyond what I said earlier, as Mish mentioned, I've been working on some advanced technologies, and those will be brought to bear in this project, as Veronica mentioned. So she mentioned that 21 people came with all these different skills. We had no idea who was going to show up. We only had 2 days notice. So it's really powerful to see so much talent coming in the room. I think that Tulum is really ready for something different. And there's 3 main elements of what we're thinking about for a platform that really accelerates regenerative projects in Tulum. And so one is a decentralized project directory. So it's a project directory that's not owned by anyone, but it's still validated and has up-to-date information about volunteer opportunities, about communities, regenerative communities that are starting, that has information about which hotels have regenerative aspects to their project and what those are. So we can get all that information in a hub that essentially will take advantage of a lot of the work that other people have been doing in terms of either having projects or compiling information about projects that isn't actually readily available. So that's one thing. That's the first thing, the pillar of it and the foundation from an information standpoint. The second thing is we really want to create a mechanism for funding projects. We want that to be decentralized as well, so that, of course, one entity, one company, one nonprofit, one government doesn't control it, that it can actually be controlled by the community. We'll talk a little bit more about that. And then the third piece is, Veronica actually alluded to it, like, how can we use technology, advanced technologies, to bring our communities together and help us reconnect with nature? And you see over there, it says digital community. And the idea here is that at the current way the web is working, it really only works for the internet platforms, but there are ways that we can create communities online. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a moment, that actually forefront what we're trying to do. So we'll cover that in the couple slides from now. Wanted to presence the values behind this and say that we had come with a set of values. So love for Tulum, community, transparency, responsibility, fair value exchange, and decentralization. We also had a number of values come up in a brainstorm that Veronica led in that first meeting. So people came up with circularity and peaceful action, consciousness, integrity, wisdom, earth, humility. Now, obviously, we can't have 15 core values that we're going to try to keep in our mind and try to push out as a way for people to understand whether they belong with us, because that's too many, right? But these are the starting point, and we're envisioning having a group, a working group, figure out, well, what are the core values that we want to work with? And we can have core values and we can have secondary values, but the core ones are the ones that we'll really want to emphasize. And hopefully as people see what we're doing and see these values, they'll understand whether this is the right type of community that they want to work with. Well, why come together and regenerate Tulum? I mean, there's a lot of different reasons, of course. I think we all are really aware of that. And I'll just mention that some of the existing efforts around making Tulum sustainable have identified waste management, water management, and the seaweed as three of the main things. We're certainly open to following that path, but we're also open to expanding it and looking at other issues and working with projects that cover and focus on different aspects of Tulum's issues. I'm not going to go into these because I think that most people understand what some of the main issues at Tulum are. I'll just go into, at this point, well, how would this work? We're imagining, and we know that it's possible that a community could come together and create a decentralized pay it forward fund that's allocated by the voting of the people in the community. So that's the big idea. And there's a lot of ways that we could actually create such a fund. So one obvious way is having entities like hotels do sponsorships to give them exposure and give us cash. But there's a lot of other different ways. There's grants out there from many different types of entities that could be brought to bear. There's the possibility of donations. There's also more forward and new emerging opportunities with things called NFTs, like they're non-fungible tokens. It's not a Bitcoin, it's actually a token that represents something uniquely. They're super hot right now. I'm not going to go much into them, but I believe that there's probably some kind of application here, Regen Tulum, because NFTs are being used to raise a lot of money for nonprofits and charitable causes at this moment. This year. The other thing is we take our online activity for granted. That's because Facebook and Twitter and Google are making all the money, right? But there is a possibility with use of advanced technology for us to actually earn value and create value from our online activity. Talk a little bit about that later. There's also the possibility of creating a network with a essentially a community currency here in Tulum, where hotels, restaurants, businesses, people providing services, even things like massages could be accepting our token or our digital currency, and that would give it value. We could add in the possibility that when someone uses our digital currency to make a purchase, that a piece of that goes to the Regen Tulum fund. So that's also interested in. And then the center of all this is really this notion that there could be a membership. And I often like the notion of doing a freemium. So there's a free limited membership that anybody can take advantage of. But then there could be paid options as well, paid subscription levels based on the different services that someone gets. And we can imagine having different types of membership based on who people are. So developers, businesses, projects, locals, tourists. And so you can just imagine we can provide value to, for example, projects and developers by giving them exposure, allowing them to have volunteer opportunities posted that could bring volunteers to them. And the freemium, for example, membership might say that any project can list one volunteer opportunity a month. But if you want to list more, then perhaps you might pay $9 or, 2,000 pesos, or not 2,000, 200 pesos or something a month. We haven't figured all that out, but there's just a lot of possibility here to create value when you have a decentralized online directory. So how would we fund these projects? Well, the regenerative projects would apply for funding. The community would get all the information, sift through it, ask questions, get responses. Then there'd be a community vote. And the projects that got voted yes would move on. After projects were to be funded, it'd be incumbent on them to report how they use the funds. And I talked a little bit earlier about this notion of a community currency. This type of thing is already happening. I saw this sign in Los Amigos. Of course, before it said you can pay with Bitcoin, but just imagine if all over town, there were places where you could pay with Regen Tulum. And they would cycle money through this community and create value for the token, which could then be used to finance these projects, as we talked about earlier. Tokens get value if people can use them. So you could use them to vote, you could use them for products and services, you could use them online, you could acquire them by volunteering, by supporting projects in different ways, by your online activity, you could buy them, you could get them as a reward for making purchases. So there's a lot of different ways. This is not fixed at this point. We're in a phase where we're going to be looking to the community to join us and actually help form how these things are. We can see that there's a lot of different stakeholders here. So you have regenerative projects, you have people who are experts in different types of regeneration, you have businesses, you have locals, you have tourists. And all of these different groups can bring things to bear. And at this point, I'd actually like to have a couple of the organizations that we're going to be collaborating with have an opportunity to just talk a little bit about their work. So I'd like to invite Andreas of Hope Tulum to take the stage and talk to us for a couple minutes about what you're doing over there in La Valletta. So you want to, let's pin you, okay. And you need to unmute, Andres.
Hi, thank you, David. I didn't hear you said Andres. I had a little bit of a breakup in the audio here. Well, I'm recapping a little bit. I was amazed by the energy that I felt that day during the meeting. That's why I also invite a couple of friends to the group that I know I feel they are aligned with this energy, with these intentions of sharing love and looking for solutions that can bring a better way of coexisting in society. And with that said, I wanna, and that's why I invite you here to Hope Tulum. I wanna bring out the possibility that we start bringing into the physical plane these ideas, these intentions, and start looking around where we can gather, what we can do actually here in Tulum. I want to invite everyone here as well to come and see what we are doing here in Hope, to take this place as a part of this project, that we could exchange here this type of value, that we could figure out how to use this resource as part of this this new creation that is happening. So, I mean, we have a open space in outdoors. We have as well a table to gather like workshops or classes for children. We are already planning on having here children of low-income communities from the Mayan towns coming and learning about the power of observation, introspection, concentration, all these things that are really important for a personal development. And we have a tumbling as well to make it playful. That's why when you said about Pacha pajamas and in that last meeting, which I love, I was already making these connections as well. I would love to see this place full of children, full of families, full of brotherhood and community that I feel we are becoming. And just letting you guys know that I will send the location to the group. So anyone that can or have time to come, you are more than welcome. I may be out for a couple of days now, but I'm here and I will be connected through technology.
Andres, can you tell us your location? And there's some other things about your space that you have to offer as well that I'd love to just presence those in this meeting.
Yes, of course. The location here, it's actually in Avenida La Selva. So it's in the other side of the road from La Veleta, but close to the main road. It's close to Don Diego de la Selva. It's close to Palma Central. It was a car wash here that we transformed in a creative space, creative hub. So it has a nice meaning as well of transformation into something higher. And yeah, we have here an office and resources to create content. We have a recording room with green screen, with microphones and everything needed to create content in a good quality level. And that's what we do here, actually. We create content related with self-knowledge, with personal development. And we have a ping pong table as well, which is part of the cool things that we have for concentration and flow. But yeah, that's on the resources that we have. And I want to offer as well that, like, I know this whole movement is going to be holding to the digital area and content, videos, right? Stories through digital are powerful to share messages and to transmit perspectives. So we have a team of creatives here. And I think, as Veronica was also saying, with our different specialities and techniques and expertise, we will be able to create beautiful things, I know.
Thank you so much. And I really appreciate your offer and your willingness to collaborate, or your desire. It's really powerful. And I believe that there's so many people in this community, but we really haven't created, or it hasn't been created, the space for people to make those offerings. And I appreciate you really stepping up, Andres and Maria.
Yes, this is Maria. She's kind of getting into the side, but she's completely, this is the biggest asset of Hope.
Awesome. Well,
yeah,
thank you so much. Francis, can you tell us about your work here and with Regen B?
Hi, everyone. Nice to see everyone again, the ones that I know today and the ones that I don't know you. Pleasure to meet you. Hey, Felix, good to see you. Happy to see you here. So my name is Francis Pimentel, and I work, there's a number of different hats that I wear, but related to this, aside from moved to Tulum about a year ago, with the intention of focusing on sustainable development, sustainable projects only. I've been in real estate and real estate development for about since 2001, pretty much, so almost 20 years now. And I just didn't want to sell any traditional real estate anymore. I wanted to focus on projects that were actually good for the environment, looking to see what was in my area, which is Miami and the Caribbean. Couldn't find anything except for Tulum, and that's how I ended up here. Throughout my time here, I've been, realizing that there's a major need, one, for actually doing things properly, because there's a lot of labels out there of sustainable, regenerative, and then there's really nothing to back it up. So I started researching on what developments were actually getting certified, and throughout that process and working with the International Living Future Institute, which is one of the highest level certifiers that you can obtain. There's several different levels of certification. I was introduced to a group called Regen B. It's Regenerative Built Environment Institute, and Regen B is composed of, we have an architect. He's been working in sustainability since 1992. He's the CEO and founder of this. He was International Living Future Hero named, and he's been working with the International Living Future Institute since 2012. And then we have an engineer, Mauricio, who's also an expert in sustainability for many, many years. And we have an environmental finance lawyer who actually was legal counsel to the Climate Bonds Initiative. What Regen B does, aside from doing general consulting for any developer that would like to get certified or wants to build sustainable, truly sustainable, and doesn't really know how to, we educate the developer, we educate their team in doing this. But the main goal really is to help finance projects. So right now, there is something called, I don't know if you're familiar with, it's Climate Bond Initiative that was created. The first bond was actually issued back in 2007, and it was a combination of multilateral organizations and banks. World Bank was in there, European Bank was in there, and the bank pretty much created this fund to fund projects that had to do with climate change. This happened several times, and I can get into a much more in-depth presentation on another moment. But back with the Paris Agreement, what ended up happening is a number of countries came on board. And so now it's a fund that has trillions of dollars available. And it's money that's coming from different countries, different organizations. And it's money that's there to be loaned for green financing, for any projects that have to do, they're green, sustainable, and social bonds. And it depends on, it can be green infrastructure, it can be education, and there's a number of different parameters that we can get into much more in depth, but the funds are there. What we do at Regen B is we do consulting for developers that would like to get access to this instrument, green finance instrument, to finance their projects, because you have to meet a certain level of certifications. You have to be able to be audited. It's not something that just anybody can come in and do. And that's actually what's happening. That money has been there for more than 5 years, but they haven't reached out to it. Nobody's accessing it. As a matter of fact, this year, green bond emissions have doubled already because they're starting to see the need. So we work with project owners, developers, municipalities, and we help them create projects, or we evaluate their project to see where they're at and see what needs to be done so that they can meet this type of funding. And how do we do that? Is we work 2 different tiers. One is we work with green building certifications. So we're aligned with the International Living Future Institute and all of the certifications that they have, but we also work with Reset, we work with Edge, we work with LEED. We have the expertise to do that depending on the need of the project. So we align the building, if it's a development or a living community, for example, we can align that community to actually meet the standards that the certification needs, and that will enable it to be able to be audited. And so throughout the design of the project, there's a checklist that the project has to meet, and we submit checklists, one to the certifier, and then on the other hand, we have the investors. There's already a group of investors, fund managers, asset managers that are looking to invest in green projects. They're being required to do responsible investment. So we actually do a roadshow and we start introducing the projects to them, and we say, okay, well, we're working on this project. What do you need to be able to want to invest in this project? And so we go through that process. And then we work with financial institutions. We have an agreement with the Costa Rican Stock Exchange and Mexican Stock Exchange already. So we work with them to be able to issue a green bond emission, which is essentially a loan. And the loan, it's very customized. It depends a lot on who's actually doing the green bond emission. It's not like a traditional loan, but it still has to be protected by a financial institution and financial instrument backing it up. So in a nutshell, that's what we do. We work with project owners, and we help them through consulting so that they can access that green finance. caveat and the issue that I have run into here is generally the developers want the money, but the consulting, there's a fee, it's a consulting fee. We do a lot of initial work for voluntarily. I've spent countless hours here, my team has spent countless hours here talking to developers, and we've explained everything. And that money, it does get to a point where we have to submit a proposal and say, okay, this is how much it's going to cost you to get to your next level of that project being diagnosed, and so we can determine if it's viable, or even just to design an entire project. So I guess the challenge here is finding the funding to pay for the consulting. And David and I were talking about different ways that we could go about that. But I'm happy to fill anyone in and more information and send you details as to how this fund is out there. There's $1 trillion available. Only 1% has been accessed at this moment. So the money's there. And thank you, everybody. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to assist.
Well, thank you so much, Francis. We really appreciate you giving us
Welcome.
this information, super valuable. And I think that one of the things that Regen Tulum can do over time would be to essentially get this type of information out there, have seminars on this type of information and other types of information, obviously. But yeah, we're excited about doing that. And if you and Andres have not already put your links in the chat, please do so. And also please post to the WhatsApp group. Thanks so much. I'm gonna go back to the presentation. So we have all these different groups that are here in Tulum that have a stake in this. What if we could create a system that enabled them to interact in a whole different way on top of the web, in a way that's safe, where there's this Regen Tulum community that has its own dedicated layer on top of the web page. This would be done through a web browser extension, a Chrome extension, for example, a Safari extension, a Firefox extension. And if you had access to this extension, you could layer information, interactions, transactions, and experiences on top of the web page. And the way this could work is, if I go to a web page about regeneration, could be about regenerative project in Tulum, it could be about regeneration somewhere else. I might say, oh, I want to go visible there. And if I go visible, I'd be able to see everyone else in the Regen Tulum community who's also visible there. And I'd be able to see a little bit about their profile. And if it seemed like there was a match, it may be that I don't even know them, right? Or it could be that I do know them, but maybe I don't know them. But I look and see some different aspects about what they're interested in, what their skills are. And with that information, I decide, oh, you know what? I want to reach out to this person. So this is a connection that wouldn't happen otherwise. And we can also, as I said, layer information on top of web pages. So being able to put notes and conversations and associate those with a piece of text or with an image. This is the power of a technology that I've been developing for the last 3 years. We call it the overweb because, like I said, it's a layer over the web. I don't want to go much deeper into it, but just know that this enables the possibility of a safe digital community for Regen Tulum, where you don't have to worry about trolls. You can meet and interact with people, and you can also interact with the content. And when you do, you can actually earn this token that we're talking about. So this is a way for us to start having a fair value exchange on the internet, which currently does not exist, or if it does, it's in some very small pockets. We're saying, let's make it on the entire web, being able to earn a fair value exchange on the entire web, over the web. Really quickly, the initial projects are to really develop the Regen Tulum concept, create its foundation so we can launch it. we're definitely going to need your help. Those of you who are live and those of you who are going to watch this as a recording, this is not something that is for a small group of people. There's a lot of moving pieces here, and it's going to be something that develops over time. The second thing is a Pacha in Tulum story. Pacha's Pajamas is a story verse. It's an animated series that's forthcoming. It's a augmented reality book, but basically it's the story of a little girl named Pacha. She's named after Pachamama. Pacha has big dreams. When she goes to sleep, whatever's on her pajamas becomes her dream world. And we're imagining a story about Pacha in Tulum, where the kids of Tulum help us design the story by telling us what they would want other kids across the world to know about Tulum. And this becomes also an opportunity to highlight some of the regenerative projects as well. The third thing is we're going to be beginning a Instagram story show called Only in Tulum, Solo in Tulum, that highlights the distinctive, wonderful, beautiful things about Tulum. And this will be a doorway for people to find out more about Regen Tulum. There is, of course, infinite possibilities for what we could work on. These are just the first several things. By doing these, we'll get a foundation for this project. We'll get some very compelling content that's engaging with the kids of Tulum, and we'll have some content that actually really draws people in from the social sphere. And by the way, that Only in Tulum, we'll be looking to you to help us develop that content. We'll need your stories to make it super compelling. So that's it for the presentation. We don't have as much time as I had hoped to, but we're gonna have a short question and answer. I wanna presence the fact that we will be doing an in-person / Zoom meeting on August 11th at Digital Jungle in La Valletta. Digital Jungle has been so kind to open their doors to us. It'll be 6 to 9 p.m. to Tulum time. So we hope that we'll see many of you there and that you will spread this to your network. So at this point, I'd like to just open it up for questions for the last 10 minutes or so. Are there any questions? Thoughts, comments?
Hi, my name is Felix, and I'm super grateful to, just give me 1 sec. Hi, my name is Felix, and I'm super grateful to be at this meeting. Thanks for the invite, Andres, and this is an awesome community. My question here is, with the projects that you guys already have, do you guys have proposals for like fundings where we could actually help and maybe present to potential investors, or a structure ready where we could actually like a commercial plan, I guess, on how to take this idea and work and actually make it happen progressively?
We don't have that yet. That's that first initial project. Develop Regen Tulum is really about creating that commercial plan so that we can actually start raising money for that fund. And
Okay.
yeah, it's very viable, but it does need the work, and it's going to need the participation of people like yourself and other people in the community to really make it a solid plan.
Okay. Myself, I've just to give you a little background. I've been in the area for about 11 years here in Playa del Carmen, Tulum, and I've been in sales for most of the time in real estate. And recently, I was commercializing. I was a commercial director for a eco-sustainable community here in the area, and right now I'm just evolving into a new phase of working in the same energy with people that want to make things better, like just make the world better, you know. And I have with a group of people, we have a project to develop a micro-sustainable city in the peninsula of Yucatan. So it's like bringing everybody along, and maybe I could help you guys out as well if I can, you know, with maybe setting up a commercial plan or strategies to help with fundings. Yeah, just whatever I could help you guys with to set this thing up and make it work. I am at your service. I'm at, you know, just at service. I just want to work, you know, and just make things better, you know, if I can.
Well, thank you, Felix. And it's always great to engage with people who've been here for a long time. So I really appreciate that offer, and we will certainly take you up on that. And this will become part of your project as well. And
Felix, I was so worried that you disappeared. Hi, thank God. Can you talk a little bit about your eco city for the Yucatan? What did you just say? That was very interesting.
It's a project that we started a couple of years ago with an idea of developing a micro-sustainable city for 7,500 to 120,000 people. Collectively, we've been working with engineers, architects, people that are in project management, marketing. There's really people like yourselves, right? We haven't landed the idea. We have renderings. We have not renderings, but we have like a drafting of the project and writing a little bit. We still keep evolving with the idea, but the intention is to bring people like ourselves together in one place where we could create a system that will create a ripple effect around the globe to just sort of create these amazing cities and protect, most important, the land, you know, most importantly, the land. And me and Andres were talking about with what they're doing here in Hope, building consciousness and who are the people that are going to be living in this city or in these communities is conscious people, right? So it all comes aligned with what each one of us are doing. It's, you know, in my experience, it comes it comes down to being organized, like how the developers are organized, the ones that are destroying the you know, Mother Earth, and your intentions is greed. So how much money can I make for the piece of land that I purchase? And I think if we do things with the other intentions, you know, with love, care, and being genuine, I think that we could really sort of empower and create something very beautiful and a safe place for us to live, and really just protect as well our environment.
well said.
Beautiful. Looking forward to more conversation. It's definitely a project I would love to get involved in and offer my design skills too.
Awesome.
Go, Felix. Woohoo. Is there any other questions or comments? Rachel?
Hi, no, just listening. Thank you guys for the kind of recap, and I just hope we can spread to more people. I think I've reached out to quite a few of you individually to try and set up times to do an interview. And as some of you know, we're working towards right now for the documentary a trailer around August, and then we can start distributing, far and wide to try and receive funding. And I guess the other thing I would just like, probably in the next couple of weeks, to get some feedback from people is on the funding model, because I'm trying to create like a 2-tier funding model for the documentary, where instead of just returning profits back to investors, if it's successful, we would actually reinvest the funds back into the projects that are actually highlighted in the film, which I think to me makes a lot of sense. It contributes to making the place better. That is kind of the subject of the documentary, as opposed to just making a film and then the people who already have money make even more money. So I'm kind of working on how to visualize that model. So yeah, I'll send it around, and if anyone has any feedback, that would be much appreciated.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Connor. Can you tell us who you are, and also maybe the name of your production company, the focus of the documentary that you're working on?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Connor. The production company is just my name, Connor Sales, and the documentary working on is called The Regenerative Renaissance, which is about ultimately what we're doing right here, about new communities that are springing up that are seeking to solve society's problems. I think for far too long we've been hoping to make change within our broken system, but now that it's got to this critical kind of tipping point, we need to completely redefine the way we live in every aspect. And I think the easiest and fastest way to accelerate that transition is through community and through kind of how people live, how they shop, how they find activities, how they find experiences, you know, that are kind of vetted ecotourism or things that give back, and how they're educated. So yeah, so we're trying to create kind of a blueprint for what, kind of as Felix says, as Monica's mentioned, like what the future of this sustainable city could look like, very much rooted in community. So at the moment, I've done a lot of filming over the last 6 months in Mexico, and we've done quite a few interviews as well, looking to find anyone who believes in a solution that kind of fits into this new fabric of society that we're looking to build, and then hopefully tell that story. And like I say, we'll be expecting a trailer around October, hopefully earlier, and then we'll take it from there. Me and Rachel are going back to the UK in 2 weeks' time, and then we'll be back in October, hopefully, to live. So that's just kind of a quick update.
Excellent. Thank you so much. We're happy to participate in any way we can. Certainly send the model to the WhatsApp group. And speaking of that, I'm going to put the WhatsApp group back on the screen. Let's see. Here we go. So here's the QR code for anyone who doesn't already have it. This website will be ready by the time of the next meeting. The email is active already. Look forward to Facebook and Instagram are working as well. So search for Regen Tulum. We're just getting started, and we need to do this as a community. So join with us, check out the WhatsApp group, and see where you can offer your brilliant services. Thanks everybody for participating in this call, and hope to see all of you and your friends and your colleagues at the in-person and Zoom meeting next week, August 11th, 6 p.m. at Digital Jungle in La Valletta. Thank you all. If you wanna put on your audio and say goodbye or say something, it's all good.
Nos vemos. Gracias, David. Thank you.
Bye, everybody. Thank you. Hasta luego.
Bye,
See you all
everyone.
soon. Thank you.
Gratitude.
Bye. Thank you.
Be bold. For love. Bye.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you.